Avoiding legal pitfalls in San Diego's real estate market. Hello, everybody. My name is Roxanne Govari with Pemberley Realty, along with my partner, Santiago Guerin.
Hello, everyone. Very good topic today. Looking forward to learn a little bit more about the legal aspect of real estate and what to watch out for and what to be on top of your game.
So this topic is aimed towards agents. We are here to provide coaching and training for agents. I've been in the business for 25 years and as a broker since 2006. So there's a lot that I have learned either through my transactions or the transactions that my agents have done. And we want to make sure that the mistakes that we come across are not mistakes that other agents come about and experience, and that way they can have a better experience. They can avoid getting into trouble, and also have happy clients and repeat and referral business.
Yes, of course. And I mean, like you said, since you've been in the business for such a long time, what are some of the biggest legal changes that you have seen from maybe back then to now? What are some things that that are more looked or more important, or just changes in general compared to before?
Before I forget, let me ask our audience to like our channel and subscribe if they're watching us on YouTube. And if they're watching us on Facebook, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you. And also make sure that you put your comments and your questions so that we can answer those comments and questions.
All right. Yep.
And now let's go back and tell me your questions again, because of course I was thinking about my subscribers and I forgot what the question was.
So, like you mentioned in your introduction, that you've been in the business for such a long time as a broker and with many agents, and you've seen a lot of things go around. What are some of the changes that you have seen over the time regarding the legal aspect of the San Diego real estate?
That's a very good question. And it's a question that I think that the younger realtors really have to be wary of. And that is, back in the day, we had forms, and we actually had forms that had 3 copies. So you would write on the first one, and it would just basically make copies onto 2 other copies.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you went, for example, if you went on a listing appointment, you would take that 1 copy with you, and then you would write on it, and then you would give a copy to your now client if they sign the contract with you, and then you would have 2 other copies to bring back, 1 for yourself and 1 to send to escrow. Nowadays, with everything going electronic, that is not the case anymore, right? So, but sometimes you still print out the contract and you take it to the client, and you have to make sure that you take 2 copies if you do it that way, because you must provide a copy to your client. If you're getting their signature and getting a contract signed, you must provide a copy to them. Hence, you have to have 2 contracts if you're doing it on paper.
Yeah.
If you're not doing it on paper, and if you're sending it electronically, the pitfall of that is that you must make sure to explain the contract to the client, because if they don't know what they're signing, then you're leaving yourself exposed to the client coming afterwards and saying, oh, well, they didn't explain this part, they didn't explain that part, I didn't know what they were signing, I didn't know what I was signing. And it's always, the onus is on you, the agent, the licensee, to make sure that the client is educated and they're comfortable with what they're signing.
Right. Yeah.
That is one of the biggest changes that I would say we are experiencing, to the point that you know, you gotta, your clients need to have the explanation as far as what they're signing, and they have to understand it before they sign it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a good one. I mean, now with technology, it's super easy to maybe miss some stuff to explain and just have them sign the documentation, and things can go unnoticed through technology. So maybe keeping an eye out for those, for everything that you're sending and how it's being done is pretty important
And
nowadays.
make sure that you explain everything. Make sure, also make sure to let your client know that you sent stuff, because a lot of the times, you know, especially so if it's a legal document, you're sending it via email, and email is not one of those things that everybody's looking at every other second,
Yeah.
right? So
Hmm.
you have to either call them and let them know that you sent a document, or text them and let them know that that you sent a document,
Yeah.
so that they're in the know about what is
Yeah.
coming and going in terms of paperwork.
100%. And what are some of those most common legal mistakes that agents or even clients make in the can make in the transaction that you've seen?
Well, you know, when you're trying to accomplish something with speed, then mistakes can happen, right? And that's where you really have to pay attention. So the way our contract works is, you send an offer, and if you don't like the terms that are on the contract, then you have to send a counter offer to basically counteract, or change the items that you didn't want to have on the
Yeah.
contract. What if you don't go through the contract as thoroughly as you should, and then don't put some of the things that are critical on
Yeah.
your counter? Now you're bounding yourself. If that contract gets signed, now you're bounding yourself to abide by that contract. And if you don't like it,
Yeah.
and you say, well, you know what, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to do it, and but at the end of the day, you're legally responsible for what you agreed on paper and what you put into the contract. So you can't just say, well, I don't like to do it, or I didn't see it,
Yeah.
and I don't want to, you know, comply, because that's not going to fly.
Yeah. Hmm.
Another part that is also very important is, if you have multiple offers on a property. If you have multiple offers on a property and you send a, then you must send a counter. If you sign that contract, if the contract comes and then you sign that contract, you're under contract. You cannot look at any other offers that you have.
Yeah.
If an offer comes and you produce a counter to that offer, then if you send a single counter offer and the buyer signs it, same thing. You're under contract. Even if you have other interested buyers who are paying more money, you cannot take a look at those. So you're out of luck. So if an offer comes in and you have multiple offers, you must send a multiple counter offer,
Yeah.
so that that way you're not bound to accept one. You're basically making sure that you're safe. You're making sure that if you want this one over here or that one over there, that you have the opportunity to take whichever one you want by sending a multiple counter offer.
Correct. Correct.
And then, and if you don't pay attention to this, then you may see yourself under contract with two separate buyers, which is a very messy situation to be in.
And if you were to get in under contract with two offers, what are some of the repercussions of that? Or
So if you are unlucky enough and you make a mistake like that and you go under contract with two of them, now you're looking at a lawsuit,
yeah.
okay? Because if you sign both contracts, now you're legally obligated to sell that property to each one. And if one is willing to back out, great, you're in luck. If neither one of them is willing to back out, then you're looking at going to court and having the court decide which one would be the buyer that's going to get the property. And I can guarantee you that you're going to owe some money to the other buyer because you have a signed contract, and they're going to be looking for specific performance, which specific performance means I want the house.
Yeah.
So if I'm not getting the house, I have been injured. And if I have been injured, I want some compensation for that. And therefore, you better pay me some money.
Yeah. So it can turn real ugly.
It can turn real ugly.
And, okay, so we talked a little bit on offers and, accepting offers, how to counter them. Disclosures, they're big. So once you get your listing agreement signed and you're working with your client, disclosures are a big deal here in California and San Diego, I would say. Can you explain maybe one or two things that people might be like making mistakes in, or some important stuff on there that you need to make sure you're taking care of?
The biggest thing about disclosures is if you're in doubt, disclose, disclose, disclose. Okay? Like, for example, you may tell me, well, I've owned this property for 10 years, and on the first year that I bought the place, the roof was old, and the ceiling came down. That's something that you would have to disclose.
Yeah.
Okay, you can say the ceiling came down because the roof was old. Now I've replaced the roof. There's no more leaks. Fixed the ceiling. Everything is fine.
Yeah.
But that is something that you have to disclose.
Yeah.
For example, you have a death in the property. Okay, and in California, you're required to disclose that any death that has happened in the property within the past 3 years.
Yeah.
Right? But for example, there was a house that I came across a couple of years ago where the husband had committed suicide in the shower.
Mm-hmm.
And it was past 3 years, and so they didn't feel like they needed to disclose that. And so the buyer bought the property, and they were talking to the neighbor, and the neighbor said, oh yeah, did you know that so and so who used to own this house committed suicide in the shower? And that could potentially be a lawsuit. Yeah. Because it's not a regular death. It's a death of, basically, it's not a natural death, and you would have to, in my opinion, you would have to disclose that in perpetuity.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? Better to tell people about it rather than not.
Yeah. What about stuff that you took care of, like any work that you put on the house? That's something that you would.
Any work that you put on the house, you need to disclose. If you're not sure about something, you need to disclose. Yeah. If you have, we had another instance where there was a leak inside the closet, and because the closet was behind the shower, so the bathroom was on the other side, and on the bedroom side there was a closet with a wall that was basically shared with the bathroom wall, and so the plumbing fixtures were inside that wall, and so they had opened up the wall to fix some plumbing issue, and they never closed the wall, and then they had put everything in front of it in the closet, and they failed to disclose that they had this hole in the wall.
I see.
That is a problem. If the buyer discovers that, then it's a non-disclosure issue and it's a potential for a lawsuit. Whereas if you say in your disclosures that there is there's this situation, and there's a hole in the wall, and we are just leaving it open because we want to have easy access to the plumbing, then no one's going to freak out. Everybody's going to be understand what's going on, and you don't have any issues with disclosure.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
other part that's super, super important, especially for newer agents, is to make sure you document everything. For example, a couple of years ago, we had a situation where there was, during escrow, there was a heavy rain, and the garage flooded. And we had already done our negotiations, our request for repairs, everything was done. And then we saw this.
Yeah.
So then we had to take pictures, send it over to the buyer, disclose that the garage floods, and then put an addendum to say the buyer understands and is aware that the garage floods. And in that particular case, we also gave some money to the seller for fixing it up afterwards. But I got a call 4 years later on that flooding garage, and thank God that I had put it in writing, along with the picture that was initialed by the buyer, saying I'm aware of this, because the buyer was basically threatening to sue.
Yeah. Right.
So doing your paperwork, making sure you even down to saving the email correspondence between the parties. Save all those emails, put them into your file. Make sure that you keep those, so that if the buyer finds out something down the line, that you have your file intact to go back and have
Yeah.
enough defense to protect yourself.
Yeah. That's a great tip for new agents. And I think we've touched a good amount of things to be in the lookout for. What about for landlord issues? Like if you have a deal that there's current tenants in the property, or what are some issues that you have seen?
Landlord tenant issues and selling a property are becoming hot topics.
Yeah.
My best suggestion is, if you want to sell the property, you want to advise your client to pay off the tenants and get the tenants out. Most often than not, the buyer for the property is going to be an owner-occupied buyer. Even if it's an investment property, I would say you are better off to get the tenants out, because it's going to be easier to show the property. You get more money for the property if you're able to show it. And for all of those reasons and more, it is much more simple to basically try to get the property vacant before you put it on the market and before you sell it. By the same token, that transfer of keys and doing inspections and transferring security deposits, all of those will add a level of complication that you really want to try to avoid if you can.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And what are some ways agents can protect themselves from any of this legal trouble when they're dealing with disclosures, tenants, landlords, whatever it is? What are some good ways that they can protect themselves?
So make sure your properties are, make sure your paperwork is intact. Make sure you go over your disclosures, and if you know of anything, as you had done your walkthrough, that those are in your disclosures. If you find something that comes to your attention, for example, you go talk to a neighbor and the neighbor is telling you, then you come back and you make sure that you put that in writing and get buyer and seller both to sign off on that. At the end of the day, anything that you can do to basically make sure that complications occur during escrow and not afterwards, then you're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So that's the biggest lesson in this, to don't let it slip by and go past the escrow period, and try to do as much investigation as you can. try to disclose as much as you can so that the stuff don't follow you after close of
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
on that note, let's ask for business from our audience. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah.
So, audience, if you are in San Diego and you're looking for a great brokerage with lots of support and education and beautiful and wonderful staff to help you, then we want you. And we want you to take a look at our website, joinpemberley.com, and you are welcome to reach out to me to set up a time to meet. You're welcome to reach out to Santiago
All
to
right.
set up a time to meet. You can check out our website and take a look at the marketing that we provide. And I would love it if you give us a follow on Instagram or on Facebook to get ideas of how to sell or to reach out to us and get in touch. And yeah, if you are an out of area agent, we would love to connect with you. We would love to have you as part of our mastermind group and stay in touch and learn from each other. So make it a great day, and of course subscribe and give us a thumbs up so that you get notification for our videos and you can join us and make it a
Yeah.
great day.
Bye, everyone. Have a good rest of your week.